Hi guys. So I'm Eliza and this is Jules, and together we're the founders of Movers and Shakers Events, and we're both students at North Metropolitan TAFE studying event management diploma, and we're both really interested in social media marketing as well. So we came up with the idea of producing a webinar about it, and thought you might all be interested as well. And surprisingly, everyone was really like we got 76 participants, which is
Yeah.
insane for having it up for 2 or 3 weeks. So thank you all so much. Let's give a clap for that. And I'll hand you over to Jules.
Yeah, so our guest speaker is Jo Saunders. So Jo Saunders is a LinkedIn expert, marketing strategist, and social media educator. She's going to be talking about how to positively impact your career and business and how to improve your LinkedIn profile.
We'd like to encourage you all to keep off your videos and cameras and microphones as well, and just until we can answer some questions and stuff at the end, which Jo will introduce at the end, if you have any that you want to ask. If you're struggling to come up with any, we have some that would love to ask as well. And onto that, we'll give it to Jo.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be delivering this webinar. So I'm going to obviously talk about LinkedIn because that's my area of expertise, but do you want me to share how I got started? Would that be useful? Yeah, cool. So obviously LinkedIn, being a LinkedIn specialist is not something you sort of fall out of school or university to become. There is no such thing as a qualification. There are social media qualifications now, but when I started, there wasn't. So it's all been accidental. But it's something I've done using LinkedIn. So I've used LinkedIn as a platform to build my own personal brand, and now I'm recognized as a LinkedIn specialist. But it sort of stems back before LinkedIn. I was doing Facebook was the platform I was specializing in. And my background is actually events. So I've run events and conferences all around Australia, and marketing was just part of that. So when I was running events, there was no social media. It was good old-fashioned marketing. So social media is something that became part of what I did, and I learnt more about it, and it became, part of my own brand. And then I'm just naturally a very curious person, and I learn a lot of stuff. So people would then start asking me about stuff, and then I got asked to speak at conferences, and that's where it sort of came from. So that's sort of my very succinct type story. And now, like I said, I speak at conferences all over the place about LinkedIn and how to build your brand. So this session is going to be all about creating your personal brand and cultivating your professional network, because the two things go hand in hand when you're building a personal brand. So Connectfluence is a word I've come up with. I only created that word last year, but it kind of explains what I actually do and what I help people with. So LinkedIn is the most, well, not the most professional, but it is the largest professional social network with 690 million members all around the world. And it's split up across the regions with 185 in Asia Pacific alone. So it's a really powerful place to be. It's obviously nowhere near as big as Instagram and Facebook and even TikTok, but it's professional, and it's all about career. It's all about building your brand and building your professional relationships. But the stats that I love about LinkedIn, I mean, I can go through a whole range of stats, but these ones are interesting. We've got 11 million and growing in Australia, which is pretty much the entire working population. You've got 20 million jobs advertised at one time on LinkedIn, so there's a lot of things you can find there. 50 million companies and growing. But the one I really love is the engagement. So every year, LinkedIn report that engagement increases 50% on the previous year. So people are spending a lot more time on LinkedIn. But then you might be thinking, well, what is LinkedIn and why would you use it? And it's not for people wearing suits. It's for anybody. It's for people who work from home, which is pretty much everybody at the moment. It's for people running all sorts of businesses. It's not just for corporate people. It's not just for finding a job. It's for finding clients. It's for building relationships. It's for building your own personal brand. So with LinkedIn, these are sort of the three key areas you want to focus on. Creating your presence, so I call it energizing your presence, so people can know who you are or who you're being. You want to use it to establish your credibility, so there's a lot of places within LinkedIn you can do that. So people know exactly what you're doing and where you fit into their world. And then finally, you can earn influence. And I don't mean becoming a social media influencer, a fashion influencer on Instagram. That's a whole different ballgame. I'm talking about having influence, because everybody has influence. And it's how you use platforms to sort of use that influence. And it comes from who you engage with. But if we start with you, and you think about what your personal brand is. So everybody has a personal brand, whether you've defined it or not. And if you don't define it, other people will. But your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And this quote comes from Jeff Bezos, from the CEO of Amazon. But what that means really, it's what are people saying about you What do they feel about you? And I always think about it's more than just what you're saying on your website, on your business card, on your flyers, or even on your LinkedIn profile. It's how you act, it's how you behave, it's how you drive on the road, it's how you interact with people at the shops, because that is all about your brand. So if we think about where people are looking right now, when people are looking for your brand, they're actually looking on Google, even before they get to LinkedIn. But the reason I wanted to mention this is the power of LinkedIn. So if you look here, this is a search for me, and you're very welcome to give this a go. So if you search for Jo Saunders, pretty much I dominate the first page of Google, and the second listing is generally my LinkedIn profile. So the reason that's important is LinkedIn's free. So wherever you are in your career, whether you're starting a business or whether you're in the job market, your LinkedIn profile is going to be found for your name. So you want to make sure it looks good. So if you are starting a business, or you've got a business that's been established, obviously you've got to build a website. Now that takes effort and time and skill and money. So if you're a brand new business, you might not have the budget for a website. Well, your LinkedIn profile can be your starting point because it ranks really well. Click on your LinkedIn profile. They're going to see first your name, your headline, and your photo. So obviously your photo needs to look like you so people can recognize you. And whether you think you've got, you're photogenic, that's the word, isn't it? Photogenic or not, it doesn't really matter. It's about having a photo that looks sort of semi-professional, that looks like you, the person that shows up to a client meeting, to a job interview for that first meeting. So you want to have a photo that is friendly and professional. And you want to make sure that your name's just your name. But the most important piece of text on your profile is this piece of text right under your name. It's called your headline. And it's kind of like an elevator pitch. So it's telling people who you are and what you do. Now, by default, a lot of people just let LinkedIn drive this, and it will put in your job title and the company you work for. Now, your job title might be something like consultant or manager, or if you run a business, it might be business owner or founder, which is not going to help you get found because people are not looking for those things. They're looking for the problem that they have, which you solve. So if I go back here now, so your headline, this is my formula for creating it. So I'll just step that back. So let's start with the first piece. So you want to talk about what your expertise is. So what are you an expert in? Now, if you're just graduating out of uni or a course, you might think I don't really have an expertise. Well, you do. You've still got an expertise in what you're studying. And what outcome do you provide? So you want to put those together. It might be a sentence together. Then you want to put in maybe your business name if you work for a business or you run a business, or how you deliver your services. So are you a coach? Are you an event manager? Are you a speaker? Are you a trainer? And then maybe the objective. So if you're in the job market, this is where you'll put something like seeking new role, or you might say graduate. So I'll show you my headline with that formula in mind. So the expertise for me, LinkedIn training and social marketing strategy. They're what's called keywords and phrases. So that's what people would be looking for. People are often looking for LinkedIn training when they need my help. Or they might be looking for a strategy. The outcome is to future-proof your brand. Now, the business name, I don't use my business name in my example. I use my new book title and my program, which is Connectfluence. Then the objective or delivery for me is keynote conference speaker, but if you have a different objective, then you put that there. So let's look at another example. So this person's expertise is sustainability and leadership. Actually, there's a typo. There's an S. It's leadership, not leaderships. The outcome is to create cultural change. And there's no business name here because this is a person who's in the job market. So they don't have a delivery method either because it's not relevant. So their objective is, obviously they want to get a job, so they put XYZ graduate. So like I said, you could also say seeking role or seeking opportunity in the XYZ industry. So you can get creative. So that's your headline. You want to make sure then when people come to your profile, that headline stands out and people understand what you do and how you add value to them. So let's talk about the rest of the profile now. So you want to use your profile to connect to your ideal audience, but also build credibility. So you want to look at the experience section. Make sure you're telling your story, which is kind of like your resume. So it's the reverse order of what you've actually done. But rather than putting in your job description, things like good interpersonal skills, great teamwork, that's sort of almost given. Microsoft Office, using Zoom is almost a given now with the way we're working. It's about the transferable skills. It's about the difference you make and the outcomes that you've provided. So in a previous role, now if you think about a role you've had, particularly if you're just starting your career, if you've come from you've got a barista job. Let's use that example. Think about the skills that are transferable from that role to where you're going to. So then communication is obviously a big one, customer service. So you might talk about something you specifically did relating to an outcome where you can demonstrate the difference you made in that organization. So I've created some frameworks for writing about this, which are part of my LinkedIn profile blueprint, which I'm happy to share with you if you just ask me. And then we've got things like education, any volunteering you want to put in there as well. But then the social proof party profile, you want to have skills. Now, skills allow people to find you if they're looking for particular things, but they can also endorse you for those things. So in this example, we've got project management, strategic planning, management. So they're things that this person wants to be known for. And the people in their network can endorse them to sort of say, yes, they can do those things. But more important than that is a section called recommendations, where people write actual words about what you've done. So they're putting their brand on the line, where they can talk about the difference you made there. But the big sort of challenge with recommendations is you've got to either wait for people to just write one for you, which most people don't, because unless they're really active on LinkedIn and they understand how to use it, most of the time you need to ask for them. So you want to make sure that you ask your network for a recommendation, and rather than just using the default message that LinkedIn gives you, use some questions. So ask things like, what was the difference I made for your organization? How was it to work with me? Or something about your personality or your skill set. So ask really specific questions. Or what would you tell others about my skills or my services? So make it really easy for them to write about you. So that's your profile words. I mean, I run a lot of workshops on this, so I can talk about this for days, but we won't. Now, the other part of your profile is the visual branding, because you want to stand out. So my profile, because I do a lot of different things and I'm involved in lots of different components of my business, I've got all my brands and photos of me with different color hair in different scenarios, because I change my hair color often, as Jules would know. Or you might want to position yourself in a link to a location. So in this example, Lockie has a photo of Perth, just to show he's based in Perth. So you could have a photo of your industry, something to represent your brand. So if you work in the event space, you can have a photo of an event that you're involved with. If you're running a business, you might want to have a photo with your branding on. So you can put your logo on top of an image. There's a lot you can do. And that's the dimensions. So it's 1584 pixels by 396. And a great tool for creating these branded graphics is Canva. And Canva doesn't have a template ready to go, so you need to go custom and put these numbers in, and then you can create something. So mine is created in Canva. So you want to tell your story throughout your profile, so that people understand who you are. Now, the one section I haven't mentioned is the About section, which is where you do tell your story. It's a sort of introduction piece where you want to talk about where you're going, where you've been, what your values are, what your vision is, what your skills are. So if I look at, this is my journey. So like I said, I've organised events, so that's the planning side of things. Technology is something I'm just really interested in, so events and technology and marketing. Design is something that I've got a background in, and communication. So my first business was running a club for helping people get pen friends. So I had a newsletter, and I had members all around the world, and I ran it for 8 years. Now, at the time, I was only 18 when I started that business, and I call it a business. It wasn't really a business, it was a hobby, because I didn't really make any money, and I had no idea how to run a business. But when I looked back to the reason why I loved that, it's exactly what I do now. I was helping people connect, and I created a community, and that's exactly what I do now. So if for yourself, look back in your past, what have you done that you've loved, and think about why you love that. And is it part of your story now? Is it because you're kind of looking for the thread, the thing that connects everything you've done? And then the opposite, if you've had roles that you've just not really enjoyed, it's probably because it's not in line with your purpose. And one thing I always tell people to do is, if you're not sure what your purpose is to look up the video by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And he talks about the golden circle and looking for your purpose. So that's a really good resource if you're not sure. Now, the other part of LinkedIn, like I said, is a network. It's the largest professional network, social network, with 690 million members all around the world. But the beauty of LinkedIn over some of the other platforms is the way you connect. So you want to build a network of connections. So these are your first level connections. You've said yes to them, or when they've sent you a connection request, or you've found them and connected to them. But the more people you are connected to, the more chance you've got of being found, and the more exposure you've got to their network. But it's not just about connecting, it's about engaging. So you want to have the right people in your network so that when you engage with each other, you're spreading each other's brand outwards. So the more people you connect to, the more you can be seen, but you don't want to connect to every man and his dog. You want to keep it relevant, because otherwise you've got a network of people that you have no relationship with and no purpose. So think about who it is you want to connect to. So these are some of the categories that I talk about. So decision makers. So if you're looking for a job, you're looking for clients, who's the decision maker that's going to actually book you or hire you? They're the people you want to find. Your peers in your industry leaders, people who are recruiting if you're in the job market. Even your friends might know people. They might already be connected to people that you want to connect to. Stakeholders on projects you're involved with, people who are your mentors, or your lecturers, who you learn from. Prospects, so people who are your ideal clients or your ideal customers, and influencers of any of these people. Because if you know how it all works, if you understand that map, having people in your first level connections means you've got access to their network. So you might connect to somebody because they're connected to people you want to know. And also people you meet at events, because the people you meet, you never know who else they know, but you also want to start engaging with them. And if you run events, then you want to connect to people in the events industry, people attending your events, because hopefully they'll rebook you. So that's the network side of things. And then the third piece, which is going to help you build credibility, is the content. Now, content on LinkedIn, you can either create your own content, that's most difficult, but that allows you to become a leader, a thought leader, a subject matter expert. Or you can curate other people's content. So this is where you're sharing a link to an article, a link to a video with your thoughts around it. Or you can just converse with other people's content. That's the easiest, but that's probably the most powerful, because you're reaching other people's network. So if I'm conversing with someone who is in the mining industry, say I want to become a LinkedIn expert in the mining industry, I want them to book me and I want to deliver training. If I converse with people in the mining industry and they are connected to people that are those people who would book me, I'm building relationships and building exposure. So that's a good activity. Now you want to do a combination of these things, but it all depends on where you are in your business and how comfortable you are putting yourself out there. So the engagement is the important part of LinkedIn, but in terms of how much content versus how much engagement, this is my framework. So for every piece of content you share, I recommend you engage with 9 other people's content. Now that might sound a lot to some people, but it just means that you're not just talking at your audience, you're talking with them. Now, if you're not comfortable sharing any content at all yet, you might just do the engagement piece and then build up to sharing content. But some people just share lots of content. They post 3 times a day. They never engage with their network, which means they're talking at, they're not talking with, and people are less likely to engage with them. So you want to think about now who, as a sort of action from this webinar, obviously you want to build your personal brand. You want to think about who should you have in your network, who are you going to connect to, and there are ways to search and find them, I should say, and come up with a list. So think about right now, based on what you want to achieve, who are the top 10 people that you want to build a relationship with, that you want to connect to on LinkedIn, and you want to start engaging with them. And, this is just obviously a quick template, but you can do that for yourself and just create a list for yourself. Now, just as a side, I'm actually running a workshop tomorrow all about LinkedIn networking, and I go deep into search, so how you can use advanced search, Boolean search, how to connect to people the right way, and all sorts of stuff. So that's tomorrow. It's run through a government subsidised program, so tickets are $35.74. If you're interested, let me know. I just thought I'd mention that. If you've got an ABN, then you can book in for that. Now, just before I finish up the presentation, I just want to share a brand new feature that I only discovered it yesterday. It's designed for job seekers, but it can be used for anybody. So if you go into the jobs area of LinkedIn, so on the screen here, you'll see this menu bar. So you go jobs at the top, and then across here, you'll go to more, or you might even see it in this strip. There's a feature called interview prep. And what it does, it allows you to practice some interview questions. So here are a range of questions. So the first one is tell me about yourself. What is your greatest strength? What is your greatest weakness? So if you click this one, tell me about yourself, you can go practice. So it allows you to get comfortable. Now, what it does, it's got some artificial intelligence on the back end. So when you do a practice video, activate your camera, you speak to camera and answer that question, and then you say finish, and it gives you some feedback. It tells you how fast you speak. Now, I speak pretty fast, and I'm conscious conscious of slowing down when I'm speaking, but when I recorded myself, I'm actually pretty good. Like I'm not too fast at all, according to LinkedIn. It also tells you if you use filler words. Now, when you're thinking in the moment, you'll say things like so, all that sort of stuff. It picks it all up and gives you feedback. So then you can become aware of doing that, which then means you can fix it. And it also tells you if there are any sort of sensitive words. So now the reason I wanted to mention this, like it's for job seekers to practice interview skills, but you could use that to practice, say, an elevator pitch if you're in business and you go networking, or just, talking about your business, talking about yourself. So you don't have to use it just for job seekers. So just this morning, I shared a video of running through how to use this feature. It's on my LinkedIn profile, just to help people understand what you can do with it. So the power of Connectfluence, it's all about building your brand so that you're discovered and you're discovering other people, you're connecting to the right people, you're engaging with them, and of course then you're going to influence them, because everybody needs to do something, whether they're buying from you, engaging with you, or you're just building a relationship so that you're top of mind. Now I mentioned a profile, I've got a LinkedIn profile blueprint. This is the link to get it. So it's part of my mailing list, and that's the first thing you get, and then you're very welcome to opt out. But if you want me to send it to you directly, just send me a message on LinkedIn and I can send you the PDF. But you're very welcome to connect to me. And if you are in the job market, I've actually got an ebook for job seekers using LinkedIn that I'm very happy to share with you. So that's pretty much my presentation, and I know we wanted to leave a bit of time for questions. So yeah, any questions?
First of all, we'd just like to thank you so much, Jo. That was amazing. And to help us out with that was so nice of you.
That's okay. Happy to help.
We've all got some great stuff today. And I think Jules and I had some questions, as well as, if anyone else has some. So we just wanted to ask how COVID-19 has impacted your career.
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting question, because I've worked from home for the past decade. So my working from home has not been any different. But where I guess the impact is in the face-to-face stuff, because I do a lot of conference presentations, a lot of face-to-face training. So obviously that's not happening. So there's no travel and no going anywhere. But I'm doing a lot of virtual training. So like the workshop I'm running tomorrow is I'm sitting at my desk in my UGG boots. I love that. Delivering my training. I mean, I don't wear UGG boots when I'm delivering in person. So I don't see it as a negative for my business, but I know a lot of businesses are struggling. But LinkedIn's a great opportunity because it allows you, if someone is struggling, LinkedIn allows you to stay top of mind and connected to your network while, your physical business or physical store isn't operating, or your events are not happening. So it's just about staying in touch. So yeah, it hasn't had a great impact on me overall. But like I said, some of my training's down, just how it is.
Do you have any big no-nos to add to your profile? Like nothing you should add?
Oh, good question. Well, you want to make sure your profile is written to connect to your ideal audience, whether, like I said, whether it's a client, whether it's a job, you're looking for a job. So if it's all about you, so if it's written in, and every paragraph starts with I'm the leading this, I want to do this, I'm looking for a job, it's all about you. So you don't want to do that. You also don't want to talk about yourself in third person. So if in my profile it said, Jo Saunders is a leading LinkedIn expert, blah, 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 that's not the way to write it either, because that's not going to connect to your audience. Plus it just sounds a bit weird. So I definitely wouldn't do that. And the other thing is, big no-nos, don't spam people. Now you want to start building your relationships, because you've got to get out of your own way and step out of your comfort zone and start connecting to people. But if you're connecting and then try and sell, a lot of people will see that, they'll send a sales pitch saying, either to get a job or to sell their services. You want to do it a little bit slower and get to know people. So yeah, they're probably the big ones.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I think Belinda's got one for you, Jo.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can see that. So how do you make your profile exciting yet short and to the point? Yeah, really good question. Now, with each section, there are character limits. And often you want to sort of fill them out, but you want to fill them out with just enough information. But making it short and punchy is interesting too. Now, the headline section, that bit of text that goes under your name, that's really important because it goes everywhere. Now that's 120 characters, but it's just been extended to about 220 characters. That was a bit of a hack on the phone. Now I quite like 120 characters because it's short and punchy and it forces you to be really succinct. But when you go really long, it becomes a bit wordy. So keeping it succinct, I suppose the basic way of doing that is having a framework. So I've got a framework for writing about yourself in the about section. I've got my 7-step summary formula. So if you keep it purposeful, you'll keep it succinct. Otherwise, you can go on and on and on with no purpose. So you want to keep it relevant. So yeah, good question.
I think we'll do one more question. So where do you see your brand and the social media industry in 5 years?
Oh, that's a good question. Wasn't prepped for this one. Well, I think LinkedIn will still be here. It's been around since 2003. It was here since before Facebook. So LinkedIn will still be here, but I think there'll be a lot more sort of AI sort of stuff. Now, the AI part of LinkedIn is a bit clunky. You've probably seen those suggestive messages, like when you message someone, it says what you could say, or it suggests things you can do, and often they're a bit weird. Sometimes they're a bit clunky. I think that will become a lot more intelligent. But also the way that we interact will change, I think. Because it's about building relationships, and LinkedIn will become a big part of that. And I think it will integrate tools like Zoom and things like that, it's getting there. So that events will run through LinkedIn, and I think groups will come back to life. Now, groups are a part of LinkedIn that that's not really they're a bit of a waste of time at the moment because you don't really get much return. But if you look at Facebook, how Facebook do groups, I think LinkedIn will bring groups in, and LinkedIn Learning is a thing where there's online courses. What I reckon will happen is events will come into LinkedIn. So there'll be a lot more virtual events running through LinkedIn, using LinkedIn Live, LinkedIn Learning, all those sorts of things. Yeah.
Keith has a question for you. He said, influencers are getting a bad name for themselves at the moment. How do you become an influencer without being narcissistic?
Well, I don't believe an influencer is a job. I think it's a made-up thing. That's very now personally. And yeah, I think influencers are getting a bad name because they're all about, well, I'm going to generalize here, but they're all about getting paid to promote something, whether they love it or not. People have influence, like I said before. Everybody has influence, but if you're staying staying in your lane of where you're passionate, so then it's not about being an influencer. You're an expert in something and you just happen to have influence on the topic. So I think the biggest mistake they make is calling themselves an influencer. Like if I said I'm a LinkedIn influencer, what does that even mean? There's no commercial value to that, and it's very much about ego. Whereas if I say, I'm a LinkedIn specialist or even a LinkedIn expert, if you've sort of, you've gone deep enough into a topic, then you're not calling yourself anything. I think anything with some ego about it. It's like guru is another term. Calling yourself a guru is a bit of a no-no. So hopefully that helps. But I think influencers still will play a big part in marketing. I mean, it started with celebrities, didn't it? I mean, a lot of celebrities would endorse brands. There'd been adverts, and then because Brad Pitt, I'm showing my age here, if Brad Pitt's wearing that particular aftershave, then of course, if you want to be like Brad Pitt, you'd get it. Or Cindy Crawford. Now I'm definitely showing my age. But now I guess the influencers are everyday people. Anybody can become an influencer if you build an audience. But I think where influencers are going as well, it's about micro influencers. So you might not be known across the world, but people will know you in a very niche area. And I think that's where influencers are going, because you trust the everyday person. If you look at when people are shopping, they go into Facebook, they go into Instagram or even LinkedIn, and they're looking for experts. They're looking for other people to suggest people. So that's where influencer marketing is going, I think.
I think we're all done for today.
Yeah, can I just say something? I mean, I know this is a bit, this is, I'm going to embarrass you now, Jules. Now, for those who don't know, Julia is my daughter, hence the surname, and you're very welcome to look at her LinkedIn profile. I'm really proud of what she's done. I've taught her some of the stuff that I teach, and it's really good that you're listening, Jules. But she's also using it herself, and I catch her using it. So I think, Jules, you've had a few success stories yourself, and I think, it's a great tool for anybody at any stage of their career to use.
Yeah, I do believe that. LinkedIn has almost got me a job, maybe. So LinkedIn is really helpful in that sense. So yeah, definitely take on the tips from Jo.
And in saying that as well, even knowing Jules for 6 months, she's helped so many of us with her networking and helping us getting jobs at festivals and things, which is insane, because we all thought we'd never be doing that kind of thing. and it's been so easy with Jules' help. So especially, I'm guessing that's coming from Jo's expertise herself. So, I'd like to thank you as well.
And I'm really impressed that Jules didn't call me mum today, so that's great.
Practice very hard.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate you guys attending and listening in on everything that Jo has to say.
Yeah.
And thank you guys so much. And I hope you have a lovely, lovely day.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks.